Hi, everyone. Welcome to part three of the Zone webinar series. My name is Felipe Cepero, and I'm a new voice here at CaseWare. And although I'm new to the team here at CaseWare, I am a CPA myself, and I was an avid user of CaseWare when I was in a public practice. Moving on to today's landscape, though. Here at CaseWare, we recognize that change is happening at an unprecedented pace, and we're here to support you the best we can. We believe our cloud offerings will help in the upcoming transition in the workplace. Please note that we will be taking your questions at the end of the presentation, but feel free to add your questions as they come in the question panel. Okay, so the Zone series is a list of best practices when it comes to working from home. It provides every accountant the tools required to weather this change. So here's a quick recap of the Zone series. In part one of the series, we went through how to integrate working papers with CaseWare Cloud and SmartSync, allowing you to collaborate with your teammates without needing a VPN. In part two, we focused on the client interaction and how to best manage that relationship while working from home using PBC requests. Today, with RCT or review compilation tags, we will explore both the client interaction and internal team collaboration, plus a couple more cool features that are specific to our cloud offering. So, what are some of RCT's features, you may ask? Well, financial statements are generated as soon as accounts are grouped. As you will see later on, this often takes under a minute of work, and I'm quite excited to show you just that. Then we have the entire product is on the cloud, so you're able to collaborate with your teammates without any issues. Users are also able to interact directly with client contacts with the built-in PBC system, bringing all your core workplace into one place. Once accounts are grouped, Giphy codes are automatically assigned, allowing users to use that built-in e-file feature for T2s. RCT is also compatible with multiple devices, allowing you to work with your favorite device so you no longer have to compromise. Lastly, you can expect updated content from RCT via the PEG template. That means checklists, letters, financial statements, and more. This actually leads me to my first poll question of the day, which is asking you what your favorite content provider currently is. So let me launch that poll right now. So it looks like it is an even split across all these different templates, which is great to see. It is great to see that everyone is using their favorite template and that Caseware is actually very present as well. But let's actually move on into today's agenda. So what does our agenda look like for today? We're going to start with migrating working papers file trial balance to RCT. Once we have that working papers data, we will start our planning process and answer a few questions to get our engagement started. From there, we will go into our fieldwork and show you how documentation flows in RCT. Then comes my favorite part of RCT, which is the financial statements. We will get into how easy it is to create a financial statement note just from scratch. We will switch gears a bit to corporate tax and show you how everything ties together in RCT. Lastly, we will lock down the file and roll forward a new file. I'll show you guys just exactly the efficiency that comes with that. Okay, so let's get into the actual demo. We're going to be starting in here in working papers. In order to migrate your information from working papers to RCT, you're going to want to lock down your current file and carry it forward to next year. Once you have done that, you can start by opening CloudBridge. So let's go ahead and do that. CloudBridge is going to ask you which entity you wish to work on in the cloud. I've already made my selection, which is Acme Company. And it's going to ask you next, do you have an engagement already set up? And I do. It is C Landscape for 2019. So here it is. Great. And it's going to ask me, should I bring that trial balance data over? And absolutely, that's exactly what I want to bring over. I don't want to bring on the current year because I said this is a roll forward file and the current year is blank. We do want to bring a remap file over because this is going to allow us to really get the mapping structure from working papers right in RCT. And the way we're able to do that is by copying and pasting this little link right here into this file. So once we click in here, we can copy and paste this in here, press enter, and we have it right here. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and transfer that data. And here we are. So it looks like we are out of balance. So let's go ahead and assign some of these accounts that have not been assigned properly. So this is going to be a reoccurring theme with RCT and in this presentation. We believe RCT is quite smart and it's able to really incorporate a lot of rich information to help you with your file and make your life a little bit easier. So how exactly does it do that? It does that by reading the account description in your account in your accounts, and it gives you suggestions of where that account should be mapped. So as soon as I click my current income tax, it gives me this list of potential accounts that it could belong to. I know my 800 account relates to income tax expense, so I'm going to click right there. If I make a mistake, I can quickly undo, but I should be good there. Let's check out if my tax is also out of balance. There it is. So it is out of balance. So let's do that one as well. So like I said, it is smart and it is going to be able to really pinpoint where this should be landing, and that is in trade accounts receivable. So there we are. We're good to go. We can now check our financial, our trial balance. And in here, we have the prior year numbers, and we also have tax. So in order to really bring this full circle, let's bring in the current year. As you can see here, you have a ton of different options at your disposal. You have working papers, which you just saw. You have quite a variety of desktop accounting software that which you can click on right here. You have the ability to log onto your QuickBooks account and Xero account online directly and click on the engagement that you want to bring over. And you have Excel or CSV. This is the most common and what I'll be using today. So I'm going to look for my file. Here it is. And I'm going to open that. Now, RCT wants me to know how I should treat these columns. And so these are an account number, this is account name, and the current year. I'm not going to worry about these two right here because that's already been brought forward in the working paper file. So I'm going to go ahead and import that. Okay, so it looks like net income's already coming into play. Let's check out and see if anything is out of balance. Nope, it looks like everything's been assigned. Everything's looking great. So we have both our current year and our prior year. That was actually quite easily. And here's a huge thing that RCT has brought in. So when I was in financial practice, in public practice, sorry, one of the first things I did when I got a trial balance was to ensure that I can look at the dollar variance and percentage variance of current year and prior year. That would allow me to know what I had to focus my time on. And so I could do that quite easily with RCT with a couple of clicks, and I get to know what I have to focus on. Great. Let's go into the Documents tab. In the Documents tab, you're going to see this is quite different from what you're used to. And this was done purposely by the RCT team. The reason we have done this is because we want to ensure that users can focus on what is important to them. And what's important to them will come from the trial balance account balances that you bring in and how you answer your planning optimizer questions. So let's go ahead and start with that. In here, you'll see again that theme that I'm bringing in, that RCT is smart, and the way that you answer questions will feed the questions that come after. So let's just see an example of that. If I hit review only, you'll see that there is nothing in relation to a corporate tax return in here. Just give you tax forms, but not exactly a corporate tax return. But once I do review and corporation tax, you can see how this updates to include that corporate tax return into the questions. So it really is adapting and it is dynamic to the way that you want to treat this file. So I'm going to go ahead and answer some of these questions. So were you accounting? Yes, I was. Partnership? No, it's not. No. ASPE? All these are no. And this is a no as well. Okay. I can sign off right here, top right. And as soon as I do that, I get my dates. And there is another logical workflow that I go into my next screen right here, which I'll do just now. Okay. Now that we're in here, I am going to skip a little bit, most of this for the demo purpose, and just get into what is going to allow me to move on to the next screen. So here we are in the hit low risk here. I'm going to say no here, and I'm going to say yes, that I accept the risk above. Once I do that, I can jump directly into client queries, or I can go back into my documents. And I'm going to do that just so I can show you guys how this has changed. So just by going through two screens, and we have now have an entire new workflow that is coming in, and it is really feeding this engagement depending on how I answer questions. So I did hit review, so I do have materiality coming in. I hit tax, so I have my tax section coming in as well, right? And that's all done through RCT's algorithms, right? And we can see that this 7% is already starting to grow as I started to sign off on screens. Great. So let's actually move on to the engagement letter. As I mentioned in the slideshow, the content that you see here is created by RCT, and it is done via the PEG template. So everything you see here is created by RCT. My logo, my address is already brought in. Something that is specific to the engagement though, like today's date, I can just quickly change by a click here. And I want to send this to a client that I've already added in my CaseWare Cloud instance. So I'm going to click on here and find them, and there they are, directly right there. And there are 32 placeholders here of options where RCT allows you to really tailor the letter to however you want to see it. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I will show you guys a couple, right? But I can sign off right here again, and it's going to give me a little indication saying, are you sure you want to do that? Because there are 32 place orders left. I'm going to say yes, just for the purpose of this demo, but note that there is that warning sign, and so you don't make that mistake yourself. So let's go back to documents. Let's actually jump into queries. So in queries here, we have a great workflow that I won't go into too much detail because I know my colleague Shabazz went into great detail in part 2 of the SOAM webinar series. Here we can find that engagement letter that we worked on. It's already been saved in PDF form, and it's ready to get sent out to that client. I won't go through that today, but just to note that this is part of RCT and it is embedded into the entire software. Okay, let's go back to documents. Great. Now I want to show you guys materiality, just how easy it is to really shape your materiality and make changes to it. Obviously, you have your area for your users and any risks that you might foresee with this financial statement and this engagement overall. Comments down below. You can also make your benchmarking right here. So I'm going to click in here and I want to find assets. It's the first one, so I'm quite happy there. It's going to be 5%. This is probably going to be 0.5 and assets 2.5. Great. So I'll go with 12,500. And note that as soon as I do that, it's already coming into play right here. Last year, I believe it was 15,000, so we're good to go there. I'm going to sign off here again. And we can jump into documents again. So we've done a little bit of the planning. Let's actually look at to see what field work can look like. So I'm going to bring in two files. The first one is a continuity schedule created by the client. And the second one is an invoice relating to that continuity schedule. The first thing we want to do with these two files is we want to modify them and ensure that their identifier lines up with their proper area, which is the property, plant, and equipment area. So I'm going to do that, /.u. Okay. Next, the invoice. There it is. I'm going to save that. Beautiful. So everything's in line exactly where I want to see it. And I just want to show you guys just how easy it is to open these Excels. It's going to ask me in the second screen if I want to open it up, and I do. Okay, I'm going to enable editing, and I'm going to push this to the left. Right before I do that, I want to show you guys really quickly that as soon as I open something up, it is locked to my name, and everyone in that screen can see that. So if we're collaborating and working with multiple teammates, they know that I have this file out, and they could potentially message me and let me know, ask me when I'm going to be finished with it. So I'm going to put this on the left here, bring this one over, and we can open up that invoice. Great. So I'm just going to make a couple changes here just to show you guys how this works. Put my initials, the date, make this look nice. Great. And I'm going to add a little column here for my reference. Okay. So I'm looking for this number here, 6,635, and it looks like it's good to go in this invoice. It is computer equipment, so we're good to go. So let's actually do some documentation. So all we have to do is click, and like I said, RCT is pretty smart, so it knows that it wants to, you're thinking you want to agree this to a source, and I do. And I am going to click that that continuity schedule. I'm going to make a little note, no issues noted. Great. So now anyone can just come into this document and know that I've made those changes, made those documentations. They can just hover over here and see that everything agrees. I'm going to do the same on this side. There we are. Bring that over. And I'll save that. Great. I'm going to pop this, make this big again, go back to documents. Really quickly, I just want to show you guys how that has been updated in real time. And my name is again popping up. Here we are. You can see it. There we go. So I'm going to sign off on these two documents. Great. Okay. Now really comes in my favorite part of the demo, which is the financial statements. In order to get to the financial statements, we have to look at this financial statement optimizer checklist before we do that. It's just going to ask us a couple quick questions, such as, does it involve 2 years in the report? And yes, it does. Do I want to combine retained earnings and statement of income? I actually don't. I usually prefer the indirect method for my cash flow statement. I would like to see some analysis graphs in my reports, and I'm not too sure I want to see variance. Okay. And now just how do I want the actual names of the different statements to look? So let me make my changes here. Great. And we're ready to go. And right here, it's going to ask me, does the company have more than one director? That's actually significant because if I say yes, in the letter, in the content, everything's going to be in plural form. If I say no, it's actually only going to have in singular. So these questions actually have a lot to do with the financial statements and how they show up. So let's go ahead and open that up. Okay, so we have our financial statement here, and this is out of the box, but this can be updated to however you want to see. Do you want to add your logo? Maybe you want to bring this down to the center, but this is out of the box, right? This is table of contents. There's my logo, the content that I was mentioning, our balance sheets. And remember, we've only answered a couple of questions. We've brought in our trial balance, and we already have a financial statement with the income statement, retained earnings, everything you want to see. Let's go into the actual notes. I just want to show you guys just how easy it is to create a financial statement note from scratch. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's create a note. I'm going to pick up property, plant, and equipment note. Okay. Next, I want to have a little description about that note. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so here I have an option. I have an option to either type this year in as 2019, or I can use my formulas up here to make this dynamic and to make this link to my RCT information. I'm actually going to go the latter route because this is going to be updating in future years, and any changes that I make in my RCT file are going to be brought in automatically here. So I'm going to save myself some time in the future by going this route. So I'm going to click current year here. Okay, and I'm going to say amounted to, and again, I'm going to use that formula. I know the balance, but I'm going to use this formula because it's going to make my life easier in the future. I'm just going to scroll down and take away decimals because I actually don't like to see those in my financial statements. And here we are. Okay, do the same for the next year. And for the fiscal year end of prior year, amounted to. Okay, again, let me scroll down, take away decimals, and there's my balance. Great. So that's our description. Next, we want to get into the actual note. Here we are in the note. We want to add a dynamic table. Once we have that dynamic table ready to go, we go here to settings and we add, and we want to say edit. So we're in this screen now where it's going to ask me, where do you want to bring that information from? I want to bring it in from trial balance because it is a property and plant equipment note. I'm going to type that in. Here it is. Beautiful. And this is where it comes up to your own discretion, your own preference, if you will. I usually like to see a lot of detail down to the line item for like motor vehicles. So I'm going to expand this as much as I can. So this is looking exactly how I wanted it to look, with a ton of details looking great. I'm actually missing a couple underlines that I want to see. There we are. And we're good to go. I think this looks great. And I don't know, I think that took us maybe a minute or two, but that's our PP&E note. And that basically goes, that takes us through the financial statements and just how easy it is to create those. Let's go back to documents. And we're going to jump into the tax section. Okay. So here we are in our tax section. In our data tab, like I showed you guys, we have, as soon as we bring in the trial balance, we get our tax groups and we get our Giphy codes along with that. So that's as soon as we bring in the trial balance. And why is that important? Because as you're going to see here, RCT is smart and it is trying to save you as much time as possible. All that information that it has from prior years and current year, it is using to fill in these forms for you. So you don't have to spend time one by one manually inputting this. And if you don't have that information from your previous year working papers file, we have the ability to import with this T2 autofill. It's a partnership with CRA, and we're able to just log on to our CRA account and bring in that information. We also have the ability to export Giphy codes from here, and we also have the ability to bring in any federal form or provincial form that we want into RCT, into the documents view. Like I said, RCT is smart, and it's going to bring in the required documents as you look into your optimizer, if you check off your optimizer accounts and the trial balance accounts that you hit. But if you want to bring something, if you want to jump the gun, you can go right here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and just show you guys what that looks like. Okay, give that a second to load. And I'm going to type it in, T2, and I'm looking for the capital dividend. That's what I want. I'm just going to check that off that I want to see that into my documents page. You can see that there. Okay, let's go back. Okay, here we are. and that's our capital dividend federal tax form. So you can see all the forms that are being brought in, and we also have the ability. So I showed you guys the queries section with our engagement letter. Note that it's not tied only to review and compulations. You can also use queries for tax. So we have our T183 form right here. And this can be sent to PDF, printed out, and sent back in the queries here, right here, and you can send this directly to your client, right? Right here. Like I said, I won't go through that workflow, but just note that it's there for you, and it's there to really to save you some time through these difficult times, right? Okay, so we also have diagnostics available for you in our tax section. There are two different types of diagnostics. We have our required and we have our warnings. Naturally, our required, these you have to finish before you wrap up your file. And the warnings are just things that you probably should look into, but they're not absolutely required. And once you want to look into these, all you have to do is click in here and it's going to take you directly to your issue. So I'm going to head and do that. And as you can see, it starts highlighting all the the issue that's at hand. As soon as I make my selection, now that's gone, and that diagnostic is now gone. Great. Let's jump a little bit into eFile. In our eFile option, we have the ability to eFile directly from here. So like I said earlier on, all your core workplaces are in just one area, which is RCT. You have the ability to do absolutely everything in here. And we've also partnered with CRA to have this pre-validate form here. And what this does, it really gives you the ability to know if your file is going to be accepted or not, and what you have to change in order to get that exception. So it's going to save you a ton of time if you start using this pre-validation form. Great. So that really wraps up our tax section. Let's look into kind of a little brief overview of what we did. So we did a little bit of our planning section. We saw a little bit of documentation. We jumped into the financial statements. We obviously went to tax. I think now we can jump into how to lock down the file. All we have to do is click top left here and hit lockdown. Once we do that, we say, yes, we do. And as you can see, the file turns into a lock button immediately. Great. So now this is locked down, and I am going to jump into my CaseWare Cloud instance. Here we are. So what I want to do is I want to create a 2020 file, and I want to use data from my 2019 file. So I basically want to roll that forward. So let's go ahead and do that. See landscaping limited 12/31/2020. And it's going to ask me, do you want to carry forward data from anywhere? And I do. I want to take it from the C landscape limited. My start date is today, next week. Normally I would say 40 hours, but since this is a roll forward file, I'm going to put 30. It's going to probably take me a little bit less. And you'll see exactly why in a minute. I'm going to be the preparer and the reviewer, but I'm also going to have Todd, my colleague, look over some of my important work. So let's say that. And you'll see this one's going to take a little bit longer to create than you're normally used to. And that's because it's taking that information from the 2019 file. And quite honestly, it's worth it. It's worth the wait because you're going to see in just a few seconds just how efficient your workflows will be once you roll forward these files. Okay, so I'm going to change my name here. Okay, and note that my year-end date has already been updated. I'm going to hit save. Okay, so I brought in two files from my 2019 in my 2019 engagement, and here they are. I I have the option to keep them into my 2020 file, but this is a 2019 invoice, so I probably won't need this. But this continuity schedule I can use to agree to my prior year numbers. So I'm going to take this in and I'm going to actually bring this in. Now I'm going to go into the planning optimizer. Again, if I don't see any changes happening with these sections, I can just go ahead and accept these the same as last year. And I can do them one by one, or I can go to the top right. If I know everything here is staying the same, I could go to top right and say carry forward all responses. So just like that, this screen is done. So that took me little to no time, and everything is ready to go. Again, I can go one by one or just say carry forward all responses. So now this screen is ready to go, and I can just jump into my documents flow again. So just with really, I don't know, under a minute, we have this entire workflow ready to go. We have our two screens ready to go, and we can see our financial statements again. Okay, and as you can see in our financial statement, everything has already been carried forward to the next year. So the current year in 2019 has been brought out to the right side, exactly like we want to see. So I spent a lot of time back when I was in public practice ensuring that these are moving over, but RCT is doing that for me, which is phenomenal. Let's go to our notes. It's going to ask me, do I want to keep that note that I created last year? And absolutely I do, because I worked hard for that one. So I'm going to take it, I'm going to say, I'm going to accept it. And as you can see, the 2020 has already been changed. The 2019 has been changed as well. The amount is correct, and it matches my note. So really, that work has really paid off for me. As soon as I bring in my current year balance, this is going to be brought in as well, and so are my balance sheet numbers. So that really is the beauty of RCT, of how we're trying to save you time throughout the entire engagement. Okay, so that kind of wraps up our demo portion of the presentation. So let's go back into the deck. And what are the requirements in order to get started with RCT? Well, you need a CaseWare Cloud license. And once you have a CaseWare Cloud license, you can start purchasing RCT engagements. Right now, we are offering a 30-day trial for both CaseWare Cloud and RCT. So reach out to our team if you're interested. Following this webinar, our team will be sending out a short survey because we are curious on what you want to see in our upcoming webinar series. This is really going to help us shape our upcoming webinar series, so we're really excited for these surveys. Also, this brings me to my last poll of the day, which is going to ask you what you might be interested in hearing more information on. So I'll give you guys some time to answer these right here. So give me a second to get this launched. There we are. All right. So we have a good amount of the poll in. Let's go ahead and close that and share that with you guys. So it looks like a lot of you are interested in the work in papers integration with CaseWare Cloud, which is phenomenal to see, and overall with the PBC queries and RCT. So that's amazing to hear. I'm glad this has been informational for you. So let's actually look into our questions that we have been receiving. So let's read in here to what we have. Okay, so we have one here, and it says, are you able to create that same PP&E note for all your engagements? It would save me a lot of time with my engagements if I didn't have to create it every single time. Okay, yep, so you definitely can create that PP&E note, or any note for that matter, in all your engagements. So in our RCT templates, you have the ability to make changes to all your engagements in just one place. So really, you don't have to create that letter 100 times a year. So just one time and you're good to go. Okay, next one is, so you showed an e-file feature in the tax section, is that available to all provinces, not just Ontario? So for sure, this e-file feature is available all over Canada, so there's no need to worry there. You have the ability to e-file anywhere. And the last, another question that we have here is, does RCT do consolidation? And yes, we do. We do have a consolidation option within RCT, which brings in your ability to work with multiple engagements. And our financial statements in that and consolidated are just as good as I showed you in this demo today. Okay, let's see if there's anything else that my colleagues haven't answered. So we have a question here. Where is the cloud server located? So all our servers are with AWS and they're all located in Canada. So you don't have to worry that your information is leaving the country by any means. It's a great question.
Hey, Felipe, I've got a question for you.
Yep.
Several people have asked this question, so I think it's worth noting. The question is, I saw how easy it was to create the PP&E note when you were in the financial statements. But does RCT have, pardon me, a notes library similar to the ASPE financials template for working papers?
Yeah. So like you said, that must be a really good question because it's coming up a lot, but we do have that. So I went with the workflow of starting a note from scratch, but we do have the option of a library, which has, I can't even say the number of countless of different varieties of notes that you can incorporate into your file. So yeah, so not to worry that the PEG template does offer quite a bit of variety there. Okay, we have another question here. It's saying, are you suggesting instead of answering the questions that the tick off to carry forward all responses be done? I think what you're mentioning here is that instead of in the next year that we can just tick off everything as carry forward. And no, that's not what I've intended. But I'm just saying if nothing has changed, you have the ability to just carry it forward. But if something has changed, don't worry. You can hit that X button and make that change as you would like. But definitely, at least when I was in public practice, there was times where nothing would change. Like this would still be a review compilation engagement, and that I would just carry forward because that's not changing year to year, and so it's going to save me a lot of time. So it's a great question, but no, that is not exactly what I was suggesting. Okay, it looks like a lot of these questions have been answered by my colleagues, but I will leave this open for everyone to get more in if you have more. But again, I appreciate your time and thank you so much for tuning in. And hopefully you can enjoy this beautiful day out there. Thank you, everyone.